Sila ang pinakayag. Walang tutulong. Okay. Wow. Tagal din ito para dito. কয়টা কি আমি বলতে পারি? আশিক হয়ে গেছে, আশিক হয়ে গেছে। মানে যে শেয়ার করতে দেখ, আশিক আমি everyday comprehension. No bigger television. Nanda. যোগ ব্যায়াম যোগাসন Good afternoon. Greetings from the Institute of Global Professional IGP Bangladesh. Greetings from the Institute of Global Professional IGP Bangladesh. Thank you all for joining us and staying us till the end. Honorable knowledge seeker, today I am your host for the afternoon. My name is Bathun Dash. I am from Bangladesh. Dear knowledge seeker, I am proud to be a associate with IGP as a global member. IGP is a social and IELTS certified international training institute. In 3 years, we already serve 3 million knowledge seekers from 100 plus countries. IGP is internationally recognized and globally accepted. We are connected to more than 250 plus professionals and 4,500 plus organizations. Institute of Global Professional (IGP) is a training facility for skill development which was founded in 2020 and it's gathering competent candidates to meet demand in the global labor market by providing professional qualifications. The Institute of Global Professional is an educational institute which provides social work globally recognized and reportable. We serve students and community resource providing holistic social work and education. We will believe that it's not effective to increase one's skills just by acquiring formal education. So, we provide effective training and consultation to generate proficient generations all over the world. We distribute our service locally, nationally, and internationally to students, job seekers, job holders, and also for learners, though respective campus, location, and distance learning platforms. We are an occupational and dependable institution. IGP is one of the famous online institutes from all over the world. Our vision is education is not a business product, it's a part of our human rights based on vision we are trying to reach all corners of the world through our web seminar, courses, award, quiz competition, monitoring and consulting. On the other side, we also trying to serve more than 100 premium services for free like create on portfolio website, resume builder, cover letter, motivation letter, and world knowledge platform for gathering general knowledge, which can upgrade all grade. Kids learning game website, free courses, converter sites, and many more. We help to empower youth to learn to meet their expectations and dreams and become highly skilled people. We implement several things, several training programs, webinars, and offline online courses for youth and learners by professional trainers, speakers, and coaches. Our sessions are conducted by globally renowned professionals to develop all kind of youth and to promote the education of their abilities and personalities. To ensure excellent and in-depth instruction, we arrange with qualified trainers, speakers, and instructors. We extended free services to more than 3 million knowledge seekers in the last year. We have affiliation with universities and organizations in 70 different countries, virtually singing with many colleges and organizations have been accomplished. We are working to create a legendary generation of further scholars and citizens who will accountable. We are constantly prepared to assist all knowledge seekers with valuable service. Spreading knowledge is crucial for the Institute of Global Professional. We believe that knowledge is love and light and vision. So we try to understand the needs of today's generation and we will serve them with good research and practice method. We must have a genuine concern for the learners. We represent more diversity, growth, and innovation are required to lead a session with professionalism, passion, and integrity. IGP members are committed to offering effective base, quality service, and continuously improvement so that individuals who seek information can improve their skill level and value. Before we move to the next, let's me remind don't forget to share, tag, and mention your friend in the comment box. Your support is very valuable for us. Thank you. Before we move to the next, let me remind don't forget to share, tag, and mention your friend in the comment box. Your support is very valuable for us. Thank you. Moving to the next, with your continuous support, we have completed 1,123 webinars successfully. Wow. Moving to the next, with your continuous support, we already completed 1,123 webinars successfully. Wow. At present, we are going to start our 1,124 program, and the program name is Teaching Reading Comprehension. And today our speaker is Manal Al Ashkar. Before I hand over the stage to ma'am, want to share a little bit about our speaker. She is faculty of pedagogy, Lebanese University English Language Coordinator, accredited training, TEFL certified. Now, very important moment for me to invite our speaker to IGP with her presentation. Now, very important moment for me to invite our speaker to IGP with her presentation.
Good morning, IGP. Good morning for all our international guests. It's my pleasure to be
Good, mo-
presenting the fourth international webinar with you today.
good morning, ma'am. How are you, ma'am?
I'm fine. Hope you are as well.
Yes, ma'am. I'm also fine. Thank you. Ma'am, on behalf of IGP, knowledge seekers, want to hear from you about yourself.
Okay. So my name is Manal Ashar. I'm from Lebanon. I'm an English language teacher and a coordinator for cycles 1, 2, and 3. I'm also TEFL and TESOL certified. I'm an accredited trainer at DOD International Center. I'm also a member in the IGP community, and I have a diploma in educational sciences as well as masters in educational administration. And soon I'm going to be seeking my PhD in educational administration as well.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your beautiful presentation. Now the stage is your, ma'am. You can start your presentation.
Okay, thank you. So, welcome again to all our IGP international guests. It's my pleasure to be presenting the fourth webinar with IGP for today. Today, our webinar is about teaching reading from A to Z. So, we're going to learn how to teach reading comprehension. We're going to learn all the ins and outs about teaching reading comprehension. Next. The objectives. First, as I said, I gave you a brief idea about myself. As I said, I'm from Lebanon. I'm TEFL and TESOL certified from International TESOL Academy, and I'm a member of Institute of Global Professionals. I have a diploma in educational sciences, master's in educational administration. I've been teaching English for 18 years, cycle 3, and I'm a coordinator for cycles 1, 2, and 3 as well. I'm an accredited trainer at DOD International Center for Audit and Correction, which is registered in Britain. Now, the objectives of our, please, the next one. The objectives of our webinar include introducing the communicative approach, identifying some common reading issues that students usually face, identifying the characteristics of a good reader, determining the factors that influence reading comprehension, differentiating different reading building blocks, working on the techniques and strategies implemented to teach reading. Another objective is identifying the two types of the reading processes. We need also to form a clear idea about the different stages of reading along with their suitable activities. So we're going to have an idea about the suitable activities for teaching reading in every stage, because we know that reading is a process. We're going to deal with some classroom implications. And finally, we're going to find the procedures or ways to help students who have problems with reading. Next. First, let us start with the principles of the communicative approach. When we say reading, we have to take into consideration that we usually are teaching reading for communication. So reading isn't only done just to read, but the purpose behind teaching reading comprehension is the communication. And like when we say communication, it means there is a message that should be communicated to the audience. So there is a speaker and there is a message, and this message should be clear and well communicated to the audience. So in every reading text, a writer or an author usually wants his readers to understand a certain message. So when we say communicative approach, it's one of the most important approaches for teaching reading comprehension, because it works on communication. And as we said, communication takes place between the speaker and the audience. And we should understand that we are learning English or learning the language, any language it could be, for communication, to use it for oral speaking, for communicating in our community, in our society. Like, for example, students at school, they usually learn to speak because they need to communicate with one another. They want to send a message or make a message clear between each other. So communication is the most important part of the teaching reading comprehension. Second, another principle of the communicative approach is fluency. Fluency is way too important, because when we work on fluency, the message would be better communicated, and students are going to learn how to read appropriately so that what is read is understood by those who are listening them. The third one is authenticity. It means like students should understand that they just learn reading not only for reading, but they want to use this comprehension or reading or whatever they read in authentic or real life situations. For example, like if they have a phone call and they want to speak, for example, or answer a certain phone call, they should use the English language to communicate. So they use it in real life situations. It's not only just like we have to learn how to read only at schools. No, the case is that students should know how to use the English language or the comprehension skills they have in real life situations. Finally, and most importantly, is the integration of skills. Like nowadays, it's a great mistake for any English language teacher to teach each skill separately. It's wrong like to teach reading alone, speaking alone, writing alone, or grammar alone, or no. Nowadays, a successful teacher is the one who can manage and who can integrate all these receptive and productive skills at one, because integration of skills is way too important in helping students understand what is taught for them. And most importantly, that integration of skills would make the classroom environment more effective. It suits all different types of learners, because like we have kinesthetic, we have auditory, we have visual, we have individual learning, we have those different types of intelligence nowadays. Like some have linguistic intelligence, some have like interpersonal intelligence, some have intrapersonal intelligence. So that's why integration of skills is way too important nowadays, because it can meet the needs of different students having different learning styles and different abilities. Next, we go on to the next idea now. Now we're going to speak about some common reading issues. Okay, of course, reading is mainly done every day in every English language speaking class. But the problem is that not all students are able to manage in the reading session. It's quite clear that some students face some comprehension and reading issues. And of course, these reading problems or issues aroused due to several problems. Some of the problems that students face or make students, let's say, struggle to read include poor vision. So some students have improper eyesight, or they have poor eyesight, which makes it hard for them to read correctly or appropriately, because maybe they can't see well the letters, they can't like read correctly. So poor vision is one common issue that we should take into consideration. And of course, we need to find the appropriate solutions for each common reading issue. The second one is improper tracking. You know, like sometimes students in class, the teacher might notice that some students in class cannot track her while she is reading, or if they are listening to a certain audio, they're not able to track properly. For example, if they are asked, of course, in the English language to track from left to right, we find that they are moving the opposite way from right to left. And some of them like put their fingers on the wrong words, so they don't have the proper tracking skills. That's why this is another issue also that we should take into consideration. The third common reading issue is poor comprehension skills. Of course, in order to comprehend any text, students need to have some comprehension skills, and teachers also should foster these comprehension skills to help students read properly. But for some students, they have poor comprehension skills, and once these skills are lacked or are not found, of course, some students will struggle while they are reading. They may end up reading the text many times, like 5 times, but they understand nothing. So, for teachers, they have to make sure that they work on improving the comprehension skills of their students. And throughout our webinar now, we'll discuss some solutions for such problems. The final reading issue is decoding problems. Some students are not able to read properly because they don't know how to decode words, how they have to divide words into different sounds, into different syllables, maybe how to differentiate. For example, if we have the word irresponsible, what is the base word and what is the prefix added and the suffix added. So decoding is also another problem that students usually face. And as we said, here it's the responsibility of the teacher to work on finding the proper solutions for all these problems. Now, what solutions can teachers find? Let us see in the next slide. So now we are going to move to some solutions, okay, that can help teachers manage. For poor vision, of course, here as a teacher, for example, if I notice that I have a student who cannot read it properly because I doubt that the problem is with his eyesight, of course, as a teacher, I have to speak to the parents and ask them or recommend a visit to the optician. So here the teacher can contact the parents and can explain simply the problem and ask parents to check with an optician for the proper solution, and in case an eyeglasses, for example, is demanded. So that's how parents and teachers can communicate to solve the problem. Another way or another way that teachers can follow is that they can ask those students who have problems, poor vision, of course, to sit in the front seat. because once they sit in the front seat, maybe they will be able to read the letters better, clearly, and more comprehensively. Now, as for improper tracking, here, I would like to say that improper tracking can also arouse or happen due to poor vision. For example, if some students have poor eyesight, they may not be able to properly follow or track with their fingers the words the teacher is speaking or reading for them. So, also, we have to make sure that proper vision here is checked. Finally, for improper tracking, we also have to make sure that the student has no dyslexia or ADD. Okay, because dyslexia is a problem where the student mixes sometimes the letters. For example, for some students who have dyslexia, they can read the letter B, D, or D, they read it as B. Okay, and also for those who have ADD, which results usually in improper tracking or follow up, because ADD usually is a kind of problem that leads to distraction. So students are going to have a deficiency in concentration. So they won't be able, of course, to track or to follow up, because this kind of problem leads them to be distracted all the time. So students who have ADD also can face such problems. So students should be checked. Parents should be contacted in case teachers notice that students have dyslexia or ADD, so that they can follow up with their teachers in class. And also parents should take the issue into consideration. As for poor comprehension skills, as we said before, uh, comprehension cannot be learned if students lack the necessary skills that help them comprehend a certain passage. And here, I'd like to say that comprehension skills include different type of skills, like reading while you can understand the phonetics, the vocabulary, the spelling, and the different functions of words. So all these strategies, if we give attention to phonetics, to vocabulary, to decoding, all these will enrich students' comprehension skills and help them avoid having some problems. As for decoding problems, for decoding here, teachers can help their students by teaching them to break up words, as we said before. For example, I may teach them that look for the base word, try to separate the prefix and the suffix which are added to the base word. In this way, you can find reading the word easier for you. Or teachers can help students by teaching them to work on syllables. And segmenting is also here efficient or useful, okay, as we said, because they will break the words into phonemes, for example. Next, now we're going to speak about the characteristics of a good reader. What are the characteristics of a good reader? Of course, we have different types of readers. We have those readers who read just because reading is imposed on them. Like some students only read because the teacher asks them to read, or because they have to read to take a mark. So they just read for taking a mark. They have no interest in reading. Whereas we have some readers who are called good or perfect readers. And of course, undoubtedly, these good readers or perfect readers have special characteristics. They read not because they are asked to read, no. Usually they read for a purpose. For example, those who like to read, maybe they read because they want to learn new vocabulary words related, for example, to mysteries, let's say. So they want to enrich their terminology about mysteries. There are some who read, like, for example, because they feel entertained or amused while reading. So the purpose is to get amused. Some read maybe to get better ideas about a certain topic they want to have a debate or discussion about. So they read to get more ideas. So one characteristic of a good reader is being the one who reads for a purpose. The second characteristic of a good reader is that the reader reads silently. You know, like those who read silently, they focus more, they concentrate more, and they can give more attention to the message communicated. So they read for being more able to concentrate. That's why they read silently. Good readers usually read phrase by phrase, not word by word. So they have the fluency, they can be reading phrase by phrase and or sentence by sentence, and which makes what they are reading clear for those who are listening to them. Also, a good reader is the one who concentrates on important information. So the one who's reading usually concentrates on the most important information. And like he just not like he reads only just to finish the passage from first paragraph to the final paragraph without knowing what the passage talks about. No, a good reader is the one who reads and concentrates on the information, especially the most important information. And he knows how to search for the most important information, ideas, data, maybe searching for dates, certain proper nouns. It depends. And finally, the characteristic of a good reader is that he or she can read at different speeds. So his reading or her reading isn't boring and isn't monotonous. He can use different intonations. He knows when to speed up, when to slow down, when to pause, when like to ask a question, and all these reading techniques. Next, now we're going to talk about the factors that influence reading comprehension. Of course, there are some factors that influence reading comprehension. And these factors include word recognition. As we said, like word recognition is the ability to know the word, to know its function, to know its meaning. For example, let's take an example, the word train. Those who are good readers can know that the word train has multi meanings. So when I'm reading, I can clearly detect the meaning. Does the word train in what I'm reading mean, like, for example, to practice, or does it mean the means of transport? So, word recognition, here we talk about the function of the word and the meaning of the word. Language competence, as we said, it's like when we have the skills that allow us to comprehend any reading passage. And now we'll speak in more details about these skills. Experience. Experience, of course, adds to our knowledge. When we have more experience in reading, when we read more and more, we'll gain more and more experience. And of course, as they say, practice makes perfect. So once I experience reading every day, or let's say 2 to 3 times a week, it's much better than those who never read except at school. So reading enriches our experience. It helps us learn more vocabulary words. It helps us enrich our accent, improve our pronunciation. So experience is also important, or it's one of the factors that affect our comprehension. The more we are experienced, the easier it is for us to comprehend any passage. Another factor is interest. Of course, students who have interest in reading are going to be better able to understand or comprehend what is read than those who lack interest or lack motivation, because motivation also plays an important or a major role which can help those who are reading understand what is read, and of course, like, be able to comprehend the message communicated in a better way. Now, next, we're going to speak about one important topic, which is reading building blocks. So now we are going to speak about the reading building blocks. Next, please. So Reading building blocks, as you can see here in this image, these are the blocks that we can or we have to use all together to have something complete. It means like here, if we look at this picture, of course, if I remove one block, the blocks or the other blocks will fall down and we won't have like this castle anymore. Let's call it castle. So similarly, in the English language, while teaching comprehension, we have to take into consideration that reading consists of certain blocks. If I ignore one of them, or misteach one of them, then my students will not be able to comprehend what they are reading. So reading building blocks is way too important for teaching comprehension. Now, what are these building blocks? Let us see in the next slide. So let us see what are the other or the building blocks that we have. Please, next one. So reading building blocks include these 5 major blocks. First, we have phonemic awareness. Second, we have phonics. Third, we have fluency. Fourth, vocabulary. And finally, or fifth, we have reading comprehension. Let us discuss each one by its own self. Next, please. So, we're going to speak first about phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness, in fact, is the awareness of recognizing sounds and manipulating them. So, like, for example, I need to know the sound of each letter, and I'm able to manipulate or repeat the same sound, okay? And I'm able like to know also how to write each sound. For example, the sound S, the sound B, the sound D. So when I have the ability to know the sound of each phoneme and to manipulate it correctly. Vocabulary, of course, I'm sure that all of you have an idea about vocabulary. These are the words, okay, that I need to know their meanings, because if I don't know the meanings of most of the words in a passage, so how come can I understand the passage? No way. I need to know the meanings of these words so that I'm able to comprehend a certain passage. Now, concerning phonics, phonics is the relation between speech sounds and their spelling. So I need to know the speech sound of a certain consonant or vowel and the way I spell it or the way I write it. Reading comprehension, of course, comprehension means the ability to understand what is read. So comprehension deals with understanding what is read. Finally, we have a fluency. Fluency, it's the ability to read a text quickly. Okay, as we said, fluency means reading the text in a manner that I don't read by word. I don't make my readers like bored of what I'm reading. No, it's in a way that my readers can understand the message that is communicated or what I'm reading for them. Next, now we're going to speak about the techniques that help us or the activities that help us develop these reading blocks. So in the next slide, we're going now to talk about the techniques or the activities that help us develop the reading blocks in each of these building blocks. First, concerning phonemic awareness, how to enrich students' phonemic awareness. First, I can teach my students phoneme manipulation, like adding, deleting, or editing certain phonemes. For example, I can tell them, take the word top, add for it one phoneme to make it a new word. So here, like students can add the letter S so that they form the word stop. So here they know that by adding the phoneme S, they made a new word which is stop. Or I can like tell them, take the word seven, remove one phoneme from the word seven so that you make a new word. So they can remove the letter S and it becomes even. Concerning editing, for example, I can give them the word, let's say, set. I can tell them, edit one phoneme or change one phoneme so that you can get a new word. Here they can remove the letter S and put P, so set becomes pet, or they can remove, let's say, S and put B, it becomes bet. So it depends. That's what we mean by phoneme manipulation. Phoneme comparison, also I can give my students a group of words and ask them to compare the phoneme in a number of words. For example, bed, ball, bet, bar. So here they can listen the phoneme B in more than one word. Another activity is phoneme segmenting. Okay, here like they need to tell how many sounds there are in a certain word. For example, I tell them, take the word sun. How many phonemes can you hear in the word sun? So they know that we have S, U, N. We have S, U pronounced as ah, and we have the phoneme N. Sometimes rhyming words is also a good technique to teach phonemes. For example, wife and life. So here they know that only by changing one phoneme, I get two different words. And the words are called rhyming words because all the letters are the same except for one phoneme. Blending syllables, also when we blend syllables, students are going to learn different phonemes. Okay, so we work on syllables. Another game we can play with our students, like I spy words with the phoneme B in this class. So here they start saying all the words that have this phoneme B until they get the right answer. And of course, as teachers, like here, we can give them clues so that they know uh, about the word or guess the word easily, and so on. Sometimes also we may ask students to make their own rhyming words. So I can ask my students to make their own rhyming words, to create their own rhyming words in order to work more on phonemes. Now we come to phonics. As for phonics, usually when we have phonics, we focus on vowels. We teach students vowels, for example, short vowels and long vowels. We teach them to know the difference between short vowels, like E, for example, can have the sound as in pet, elephant, set, bed. It can have the long E sound, like as we say, for example, seen, teen, and so on. So we focus on vowels. I can also teach them like concerning vowel A, it can be a, like cat, bat, rat, hat, and we can also have it as long A, like when I say cane, pain, and all the other words, date, and so on. So here it's important to teach them, and of course teachers should tell them why here it's a and why here it's e. A because it ends, for example, words that end in silent e, usually the vowel is elongated, so it gives long sound, not short sound. We can also use this structure or technique, use CVC words, consonant, vowel, consonants, as we said, like bat, rat, hat. So here I start with a word that has consonant, vowel, and then consonant, and I ask my students to compare, to know the phonics, the vowels, and the spelling of each vowel. Sometimes we may ask the students to look for patterns, as we said, like, for example, in bat, sat, hat. So the pattern that is repeated is AT at the end. Hear it, write it. Here it's a game. I can give my students words. I tell them, write down what you hear. Hear the word clearly, listen to the word clearly, and then write it down. Tongue twister is an important and effective way in teaching phonics. So here students are going to learn the phonics and the sounds by giving them a sentence in which a certain letter is repeated. For example, I may say, the frantic frog flew or fled away from the 55 fishes. So here I tell the students, what sound can you hear? Which sound is dominant in this sentence? So they should know that it's the sound of the consonant F. As for the reading block of fluency, some techniques that help students enrich fluency are reader theater. Okay, we can work on reading theaters We can like also enrich plays, role plays in class, because practice, as we said, makes perfect. So once we teach students to practice, to role play, to repeat, to model, all these, of course, will help students enrich the fluency and stop reading word by word and they read phrase by phrase. Also, we can go for echo reading, and it means like I ask students to read and make them listen what they read. Okay, I ask them to read aloud, for example, in a closed room, so that they can listen the echo of their sound, and they can enrich their reading. This makes them, by the way, more confident, because like some students are afraid to read, especially in class in front of their classmates. So it's good to tell them at home, stay away in an isolated room, read aloud and listen to your reading. Once they read aloud, they are going to know their mistakes, they are going to judge or evaluate their own reading by checking if it's a good one or no. I should repeat and repeat, because I'm not still fluent. I'm still working only or reading by word. So this is a good way, and it will help students gain confidence. So once they come to class, they won't be afraid of what they are reading. Choral reading, it's also good that some teachers use this procedure or technique. They usually ask students to read all at once. This is good. Why? Because weak students, or those who are afraid of reading because they know they have problems in reading, and like they are afraid to read because they know that the reading is poor and they have poor reading comprehension skills, then will be more confident, because they will say for themselves, okay, now we'll read all together, so no one is going to know that I made a mistake. So for some students it's more motivating, because it teaches them not to be afraid. And of course also it's good because students can listen to what their better friends, or how their better friends, those who are better at reading, I mean, are reading. So this can help them like also imitate their friends. So choral reading is also important. One-on-one reading, here it's up to the teacher. Some teachers, for example, ask students to read only one by one. Some teachers ask students to read pair. Popcorn reading, like I ask different students from different groups to read all at once. So here it's up to the teacher. But all these are good ways to enrich fluency. As for vocabulary, of course, we have different games that teachers can use, or different techniques, but here to mention only some, we have, for example, guess the meaning. Okay, I can give like students clues, and I tell them, using the clues, guess the word that I want you to know, or find, for example, in the passage words that have the same meaning as. Context clues are, of course, too important to teach vocabulary, because they are helpful in knowing the meaning of difficult words. And here, it's so important to highlight that context clues are of different types. For example, these can be definition clues, a word which is often followed by its definition. So I teach my students like, here you can find that the definition gives the meaning of this word. So this word means so and so. Sometimes context clues can be synonyms. Sometimes they write, for example, um, a word, and after it they put comma and they write its synonym. Okay, so for example, tsunamis, comma, seismic waves. Okay, so here I understand that tsunamis are seismic waves. Sometimes the context clues can be offered in the form of antonyms. So sometimes the author might use antonyms, okay, to talk about a certain point. For example, the author may say, during the marathon, some competitors go through the feeling of ecstasy or else agony. So here, by reading the sentence, I understand that two words are opposite. Ecstasy means happiness, agony, it means feeling pain. So here the author provides antonyms. Prefixes and suffixes, of course, are also important in teaching vocabulary. So when I tell my students to decompose the word, I tell them, look for the base of the word. So, for example, let's take the word prehistoric. I ask my students if they don't know what's the meaning of prehistoric. Okay, and I previously explained the prefixes and suffixes. I tell them, what's the base word in prehistoric? They would say it's history. Okay, great, it's history. Then what is added to the word? They would say pre. Okay, pre, what is pre? It's a prefix. What did we study the meaning of pre? Pre means before. Okay, whereas IC is the suffix. IC is like an adjective. Okay, so what does the word prehistoric mean? It means before history. Another activity that I can use is word ending flower. Here the teacher may draw a flower for the students and give a word, let's say thank, and tell them, use the word thank to make or to form new words. So maybe someone will write thankful, someone will write thankfully, thankfulness, and so on. So using word ending is a proper procedure to teach also how to improve their vocabulary. The final reading block, as we said, is reading comprehension. To understand reading comprehension, we can work on graphic organizers. Of course, the most important in teaching comprehension for teachers is to tell students to use the graphic organizers. Why? Because why graphic organizers are important first for students to organize their ideas, to map or to form a semantic map about the passage communicated. For example, if it's causes and effects, and I use this graphic organizer, students will understand better what are the causes of air pollution and what are its effects. Okay, and also for example, graphic organizers help them like also to, in case later they want to have a writing, to write in a proper manner to summarize the main ideas of the message communicated in the text. So graphic organizers are too important, and I believe that, according to my experience, a teacher who wants to work well on her reading period, or to succeed during her reading periods, should be the one who uses or turns every text she's reading to her or to his students into graphic organizers, because they are summaries for the main ideas of the text given. Another important way to help students enrich their comprehension skills is to ask or teach them to ask comprehension questions. Or she can ask, like she can ask yes, no questions, true or false questions, WH questions. So comprehension questions, of course, will help students better understand a certain passage. Another way to teach reading comprehension is summarizing. Of course, as we said, graphic organizers can be a way to writing a good summary. So the teacher may start by using a graphic organizer, and then she may ask her students to write a summary using the graphic organizer they took. Sometimes teachers ask students to make inferences, like after reading, to write what they deduced or inferred from a given passage. Finally, working on characterization is greatly important. So students need to understand how characters react, how characters how characters feel, how they interact with a certain given message. For example, here teachers should teach students to understand the character through his words, through his behavior. For example, if I'm reading, Sarah slammed the door and the red fury was draining from her face. Here I pause to ask my students, what can you understand? How do you think she feels? Of course, they should know that Sarah here feels so angry or so nervous because they told us she slammed the door, she hit the door fiercely. And at the same time, the red fury drained from her face. It means she was so furious. So here, by using these context clues and by using these expressions, I can understand that the character feels so nervous. Now, we go on to continue with some additional activities to develop vocabulary. So the next slide, we will deal with additional activities to develop vocabulary. Of course, as I mentioned before, please the next one. In the there are some additional activities that can help us improve the students' vocabulary. May you please change to the next one? Next slide. Additional activities to develop vocabulary. Of course, as we said, there are many activities to help vocabulary skills. For example, we can work on word ending part, as we said, the suffixes. I spy games. For example, I can tell my class, now we will play an I spy game. I will tell you, for example, I spy a word that starts with the letter S, and I give them clues. They have to guess the word that I am talking about. Another proper way to teach vocabulary is through categories. Categories is a game in which students are asked to write, for example, names of people, animals, places, things, food, and so on, that start with a given letter. For example, I divide my class into groups. I tell them, now we're going to take the letter L. Once I count to 3, you're going to write a name of a person, a name of an animal, a name of a thing, a name of a country, food. That starts with the letter L. Here, the teacher can change the rules of the games, by the way she finds better for suiting her lesson. It depends for the teacher to change the rules of the lesson the way she finds it more suitable for her lesson. Word families, okay, as we said, like when we talk about a certain word, and from this word I make new words. Like if I take the word, for example, try, trial, trying, and so on, retry, and these all. Okay, bingo games. Also, we can play bingo game, but for vocabulary purposes, like to teach synonyms, to teach antonyms, prefixes, suffixes, and so on. Also, dominoes can be used for the same purpose. Now we're going to deal in the next slide. Next slide, please. Why is phonemic awareness important? Why it's important to teach phonemic awareness? Please, the next one. Next slide, please. Why is phonemic awareness important? Of course, phonemic awareness is greatly important because if children are going to be successful readers, they need to understand that words are made of sounds or phonemes. Example, they need to know that the word hat has 3 phonemes. Okay? Also, phonemic awareness makes it easier for children to benefit from phonics instruction. So here, we should know that phonemic awareness and phonics awareness are way closely related. So both of them depend on one another. When I teach my students phonemic awareness, I'm improving their phonics awareness, and the opposite is true. So here, students should understand that both are related to each other, and that if they want to be good readers, they have to know phonemes, their sounds, the sound of the vowel, the spelling, the way we read, the way we combine letters, the way we combine sounds. And this is the way to understand how to read certain words. Next, how to help students develop phonemic awareness. So we're going to deal with the next slide. Next slide, please. How to develop phonemic awareness. How to help students develop phonemic awareness. First, ask them to blend phonemes. As we said before, if I have the word sun, I ask them blend or join S, vowel U, and the consonant N. You will get the word sun. Segment phonemes, it's the opposite when I ask them to decode. For example, take the word hat, divide it into the appropriate phonemes. You will get H, A, T. Teachers, in order to succeed in teaching phonemes, should know that they have to teach only one or two phonemes, not more, because if they teach more than two, then the students are going to face some problems. Finally, keep an eye on students' writing, because writing is also related to teaching phonemes, as we said, because phonics and phonemic awareness are closely related. And students, if students know how to write a certain letter, they should know how to pronounce it, and the opposite is true. Next, why is phonemic awareness important? Now we're going to discuss why is phonemic awareness important. Children who understand the relation between letters and sounds are better able to read words accurately and figure out new words. So, of course, children who are able to know the letters, to differentiate the letters and their different sounds, are, of course, being able to read better words accurately. For example, they should know that the letter C can be pronounced as S, can be pronounced as K. So they need to understand the relation between letters and sounds so that they can clearly understand also words accurately and also figure out new words. Next. How to help students develop phonemic awareness. In order for teachers to help their students understand or in phonemic awareness or phonics awareness, here it's so important to find a certain systematic program which emphasizes a useful set of major letter sounds. So teachers should use a program which emphasizes different letter sounds, okay, and in order to help students develop their phonics, they need to have them practice the sounds of different vowels, different consonants. And as we said, practice makes perfect. So it's so important to have students practice reading. Next slide. Why is the fluency important? We're going now to talk about the importance of fluency. So next. Why is the fluency important? As we said before, of course, reading word by word will be boring for the audience, will be boring for the one who's listening to us, and of course would divert or distract his attention from the message communicated. That's why for students to be good readers, teachers should help them read properly. They should they need to know when to pause, when to slow down, when to speed up a little bit, when to vary their intonation, how to imitate, for example, a certain sound, and so on. If they are, for example, role playing, let's say, and the role is an old man, they should use like the sound of an old man. They need to imitate. If they are role playing and they are working like as patients, they should be able also to imitate the same way. So fluency is greatly important because if students are not to read phrase by phrase and sentence by sentence, then of course it will be boring for the audience and the message will not be well communicated. Now, next, how to help students develop their fluency. In order to help students develop their fluency, we need first to model fluent reading. So, of course, teachers won't be able to teach fluency if teachers themselves are not fluent at reading. So, how can I teach my students to read fluently if I read in a boring way? If I don't know how to pause, how to speed up, how to slow down, and so on. If I don't know how to vary my intonation. So this would be nonsense. So teachers should be role models for their students and should model fluent reading continuously in class so that they succeed at doing their work. As you read, you have to explain for your students that they need to change their voice, their intonation, they need to pause. For example, when they see a comma, count to one and then continue. When you see a full stop, stop, count till three and then continue. So in this way, and that's how we can improve our students' fluency. Next now, why is vocabulary important? So let us find out why is vocabulary important. Okay, let's now discuss why is reading comprehension important. Reading comprehension is important because students who are reading for a purpose are the ones who can find the purpose communicated behind this message. And students won't understand the message communicated, of course, if they lack the ability or they lack the comprehension skills that help them read well. And as we said, there are different comprehension skills like skimming, scanning, vocabulary, fluency. All these help students understand what they are reading, understand the text, the message communicated, and the purpose behind what they read. And of course, active readers, those who have great experience and knowledge of the world around them and who master the reading strategies, are going to be better able to understand what they read than those who are students who have poor reading comprehension skills. How to develop students' reading comprehension? Next. Of course, as a teacher, in order to help my students develop their reading comprehension, I need to teach them to ask questions while they are reading. I need to motivate them to be like intrinsically motivated and to search for any word while they are reading, to highlight or like to underline the difficult words that they didn't understand, to use dictionaries for their vocabulary, to find out the meanings of the difficult words, to work on context clues. Sometimes it's good also for teachers to teach students or ask students to use graphic organizers. We already said that graphic organizers are greatly important and helpful. And also teachers can help students highlight ideas, encourage them to read for intrinsic motivation, not for extrinsic motivation. And all these will help. Now, concerning vocabulary, how to help my students? Of course, I need to pre-teach the vocabulary. For example, don't expect students to understand a passage if I don't give them the most meaning of the most difficult words. Even in exams, if you prepare an exam that has like 5 difficult words, it's good to write the meanings of the words for your students so that they can understand the passage. And also teach your students not to panic and stop if they meet one difficult word. Tell them one word will not affect your complete comprehension of the text. Also encourage students to use dictionaries, to watch movies, while watching movies to write down any difficult word, to fetch it for its meaning, to know the multi-meanings of words, because, for example, some words like the word trial or train or many words in English have multi-meanings, so students should know the specific meaning of the word. Next. Next, please, we're going to discuss the skills involved in reading comprehension. Of course, there are some skills, as we said before, that are meant to help in reading comprehension. Okay, these skills include understanding the explicitly stated information. So first, students should, at least to understand the message, they should understand the directly stated information. The main, like for example, if they are reading, students are of course expected to understand, if they are reading a story, they are expected to understand what's the title of the story, who are the characters, who are the major ones, who are the minor ones, what was the problem, what was the solution. So they need to understand the direct information. Understanding conceptual meaning, as we said, they need to understand the meaning of words according to the context. For example, if they meet the word the trial, they should know, does it mean trial an exam? Does it mean trial an attempt? Does it mean trial as a court? So you have to teach students to work on their context clues. They should also deduce the meaning of unfamiliar lexical items. For example, like some English words are borrowed from the Latin language. Some students need to understand the meanings of prefixes and suffixes to be able to understand the meanings of words. For example, once I teach them that un means not, pre means before, anti means not, miss it means not. So here I'm facilitating my students' learning of new or difficult words. Understanding reaction with relation with sentences. So students should understand the relation, okay, within sentences and the relation between sentences. For example, they should understand the relation within sentences. This group of words, what do they mean? What do they give me as a meaning, as a phrase? And the relation between sentences, like it could be a cause effect sentence, it could be a conditional sentence in which I have a cause and I have a result. So all these are way too important for teaching the reading comprehension. Next, we discuss now the difference between intensive and extensive reading. The difference is extensive reading is usually outside the class. We usually have longer passages, or we speak about longer text, and it's usually done for pleasure. It means that extensive reading is usually done by those who are intrinsically motivated. They have motivation from inside to read. They read because they feel pleasure when they are reading. They read because they are excited to read. They read because they need to know more. They have like inquisitive, we call them inquisitive readers. They want to learn more information. They want to know more about what they are reading. So this is extensive reading. Whereas intensive reading, it's usually done inside the class. When we as teachers ask our students to read inside the class, we usually ask them to read shorter passages, and we ask them to read, to study a certain and learn a certain language. So they study, they need to learn and study a language. Now let us take further clarifying ideas about the difference between intensive and extensive reading. So the next slide, please. We're going to discuss, in the next one, we are going to discuss the differences between extensive and intensive reading. Extensive reading, as we said, here the reader is reading for pleasure. He's reading because he knows, he wants to know more. He has inquisitivity. That's why he's having an eagle's eye view. What's meant by eagle's eye? It means this one, the reader, is reading to know everything, the ins and outs of this passage. He wants to know everything about the passage, every word. He has the motivation or the like curiosity to know the meaning of this word. Why did the author say this? Why did he make this character act this way? So he wants to know everything. Okay, and this is top-down processing, we call it. Usually the extensive reading is done silent reading, as we said, like a reader reads for uh, complete attention and to be far away from distraction. Extensive reading also, it teaches reading. Okay, it teaches reading. So and it fosters interest and culture. We know more about the cultures, about it increases our interest toward different topics. We know about the culture, the language, the civilizations, maybe the way people speak, the way people live in a certain country. And as we said, it's usually done for pleasure. Okay, and of course, here we have decoding. The reader is able to decode, to decompose words, and it teaches vocabulary, because usually the reader, as we said, is the one who searches for the meanings of any uncommon words. Now, as for the intensive reading, it's usually a bottom-up process uh, in which we work as magnifying a class. And I work from the smallest letter and I start like as if zooming or magnifying to get finally the sentences. Now we'll explain in more details. Intensive reading is oral reading, usually done in class, as we said. It's an assigned form of reading, as we said, because the teacher asks us to read. Uh, Here we just read like to have background knowledge about what we are reading, because we're not interested to learn more about interest or culture or whatever. We read only for information because the teacher told us to read and get information about this. Intensive reading is reading just to comprehend what's the main message, nothing else. And it includes guessing vocabulary, like we need to guess the vocabulary that we are reading. Now we move on to the stages of the reading process. So now we're going to move on to the next slide, which deals with the stages of the reading process. There are three different stages for a reading process, and these include the pre, the during, and the post stage. So we have three stages. These are pre-reading, during reading, and post-reading. Let's move to each one. Next slide, please. There are different activities done during each stage. For example, in the pre-reading stage, some activities to teach reading include pre-teaching vocabulary. I have to teach my students or to pre-teach my students certain vocabulary so that they are able to understand the passage. I use the title for making predictions. Okay, so we use a certain title to make predictions. I ask them, what do you expect the passage to be about by reading this title? And I activate by their prior knowledge by using the illustrations or pictures given. So these are some activities to teach reading comprehension during the pre-stage. As for the during stage, here, as we said, of course, teachers can design many activities like asking students to answer true or false questions, matching sentences, half, skimming, scanning, multiple choice questions, filling in the gaps, and so on. And here I'd like just to give an idea about the difference between skimming and scanning. The difference is that skimming usually is done as a quick reading just to grab the general concept of the passage, whereas scanning, as if I'm keeping an eagle's eye. I read to scan for details. I read for certain dates, for certain names, for certain clues. So skimming is a quick reading, whereas scanning is a detailed reading, in-depth reading. Now, for the post-reading strategy or process, we can use these activities. Students are asked to summarize, to retell a story, to role play, to provide an ending, maybe to speak, to produce a speaking activity, to produce a writing activity, depending on what they read. Next, we go on to discuss the bottom-up and the top-down process. So in the next one, we're going now to differentiate the bottom-up and the top-down reading processes. The reading process, in fact, is divided into two parts. First, we have the bottom-up process and we have the top-down process. The bottom-up process, usually readers rely on actual words and meanings. So it starts from the bottom to the top. Okay, so it goes from bottom to the top. Whereas in the top down, readers focus on the general idea of the text and not words. Okay, and so as we said, usually in the bottom up process, we have magnifying glass, as we said. We work on letters, then words, then sounds, and so on, to reach finally sentences. In the top down, we work the opposite way. We have an eagle's eye, and we work on from the main theme or passage in the reading text, then we go down. Let us give more details. So we see in the next slide, we can see like a summary which helps us understand. As we said, here we start with letters from top to up, from down to top, bottom to top. I have letters, words, phrases, sentences, and then we comprehend the passage. Whereas if I'm working top down process, I say comprehension of the passage, then I move to sentences. From sentences, I move to phrases, from phrases to words, and from words to letters. Next. Now, let us go to a practical part. Here, let's say I have to design one pre-reading task, one during reading task, and one post-reading task for this short passage. This passage says, Lee's art teacher asked her to paint something outdoors. So at 5 o'clock, Lean took her paints into the garden and set up her easel. She didn't notice that the ground was still soft from last night's rain. Just as she started to paint the colorful sunset, the easel tipped over. Lynn picked up her painting, now covered with dirt, and began again. I'll have to stop for now, Lynn said to herself. The sun is going down. It's too dark to see the colors, and I'm out of orange paint. So here, if students are asked to design pre-reading task or during reading task and one post-reading task, for example, I can start by like using a certain image that illustrates this small passage and ask students using the image, what do you think the text might be about? So here I activate their prior knowledge by using a certain image or photo or poster. It's up to the teacher. During reading comprehension, but while students are reading, I can ask them like true or false questions, matching, about the characters, sequencing, it depends. And finally, as a post-reading task, for example, I can ask students to use a certain graphic organizer or to, for example, speak about their best art activity, like use for them, give them a graphic organizer in which they write 4 characteristics of the art activity they like to do. So this is how we can improve our or design our reading comprehension tasks. Next, if I have a certain case, so next we're going to discuss, if I have a certain case and I need to identify the problem faced and then suggest a certain solution. For example, if I say, Mona is a grade 1 English teacher. So Mona is a teacher for grade 1. She teaches grade 1 students. She starts her lesson by presenting vocabulary using pictures of words that have sound R. Rat, rabbit, carrot, fire, jar. Then she asks the student to read the whole story aloud. After 10 minutes, she was astonished that no one responded for the comprehension questions she asked. What's the problem and what's the solution? As a teacher, for example, of course, if I'm teaching a grade 1, I won't do this. Why? Because I can't impose a number of words for students all at once. This is first. Second, it's wrong from the teacher to ask students, especially grade 1 students, to read alone the whole story aloud. How can students read a whole story? For grade 1, I need to ask them to read like one sentence, then another sentence, or 2 sentences, or paragraph by paragraph if the paragraphs are small. So the problem is that the teacher asked the students to read all the text once at once. So of course they will be frustrated, they will not be able to do it. That's why the solution is divide the passage for your students, ask them to read sentence by sentence, explain the meanings of difficult words, let them read after you, model reading, so they cannot read on their own alone. Of course, it's too difficult. Finally, we discuss another case. Final one. So we're going to move to another problem. Hani is an experienced teacher. So Hani is an experienced teacher. He usually starts his reading lesson by activating the learner's background knowledge. Okay, great. So he activates their knowledge. Then he asks the students to read the lesson silently. After that, he asks the students to answer WH questions in groups. Also, despite his experience, Hani did a great mistake. Why? Because, okay, good, he activated their knowledge. But the point is, how come he asks them to read silently and then ask comprehension questions? No, we never have to do this. As teachers, we have to divide the comprehension passage for our students. We should read paragraph by paragraph, let them understand each paragraph. Who are the characters? What does the character do? Okay, now what do you expect the character to do in the next part? And so on. Ask them comprehension questions related to each paragraph separately, not to ask comprehension questions related to all the passage at once. So the solution is ask individual questions to each paragraph separately. And I guess with this, we came to an end. Thank you all for your attention. And that's our webinar for today. I hope that my presentation met up your expectations.
এখানে মিউট করেন। Thank you so much, ma'am, for your rich content of presentation, which can impact our knowledge seeker surely. After your presentation, I hope our knowledge seeker can learn something new, which was our only intention. Learn and grow together, IGP knowledge seekers. Once again, thank you so much, dear ma'am, for your presentation. Ma'am, now it's time for our question answer session, which is the more valuable part of our regular webinars. Honorable ma'am, please stay with us. After a short video, we will be back in our session part 2, which is the question answer part. Dear IGP knowledge seeker, please ask your question in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Thank you. After question answer, we have webinar certification and online quiz competition process. Dear IGP knowledge seekers, please ask your question in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Thank you. After Q&A, we have webinar certification and online quiz competition. Dear IGP knowledge seeker, please ask your question in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Thank you. After Q&A, we have webinar certification and online quiz competition. প্রশ্ন তো অনেক উপরে উঠে গেছে অনেক করছে এগুলো উপরে উঠে গেছে কাইন্ডলি হোয়াট ইজ গ্রাফিক এবার এগুলো আমি কেমনি ইয়ে করবো গ্রাফিক অর্গানাইজেশন এটা থেকে hello, ma'am. Our first question is from Ishaya. Ma'am, kindly, what is graphic organizer?
Okay, so as we said, graphic organizers are like web organizers, and from their names, they help students organize the ideas. And of course, they are greatly important for teaching reading comprehension because they help students organize ideas. They can help teachers even summarize the lesson for students. And also they pave the way for students to be able to write because, like, of course, after teaching any reading comprehension, students should do any writing activity. So graphic organizers would help them organize their ideas and complete a writing activity. And of course, there are many different types of graphic organizers, like we have cause effect, the Venn diagram, compare contrasted charts. It depends. So it depends on the passage that students are reading.
Thank you, ma'am, for your answer. Our next question is from Julia. How can we promote proper independent reading to students?
Okay, so of course, students need to learn how to read independently. And one way we mentioned in our webinar is that we said that we can help them echo reading, focus on echo reading, ask them to isolate themselves, sit in a room where they can read out, listen their voice, and they can like read independently. And in this way, they can be more confident. They can find out their own mistakes. Okay, but of course, the students who have very poor reading comprehension, we cannot expect them like to read independently from the first week or from the first month. Sometimes the teachers should work with the students many times until they reach this point. For example, I have students who cannot read in front of their friends. Sometimes they ask me, Miss, please, can I read with you on the break alone separately? Okay, start with this way, no problem. So that at least you know that they are confident. When you are sure that they have enough confidence to read, then you can ask them to read independently without help, without guidance. But first, you should give your students a helping hand. Okay, and most importantly, motivation. Work on motivating your students to read, work on motivating them by maybe telling them if you do this or if you read this tomorrow, you will not have, for example, an assignment. I'll give you plus, you will have a reward. Motivation is the best key also.
Thank you, ma'am, for your answer.
You're welcome.
Ma'am, our next question is from Flami. Good day, everyone. Good day, ma'am. What are some of the causes of reading comprehension difficulties?
Okay, we mentioned that reading comprehension depends on different blocks and different skills. And we said that if one block is missing, of course, students will struggle to understand what they are reading. So, of course, as teachers, we have to make sure that all the skills are found, all the skills are well taught. For example, if I'm a teacher and I only give attention to vocabulary without giving attention to fluency, my students will not be able to read properly. Okay, if I give attention to fluency, ignoring the comprehension processes, the pre, the during, the post, of course, my students will have comprehension difficulty. So teachers should work on finding a way to work on all the blocks of the reading comprehension. And as we said, make sure that students don't have any common reading issues, as we said before, like poor vision, improper tracking. So all this because may end up in having comprehension difficulties.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, our next question is, what are the some of the effective strategy for comprehension for Korean students?
Okay, there are many different effective strategies for comprehension. And we said, like, now for any student, whatever his language or accent is, I guess that when you want to teach reading, make it enjoyable. Make the student feel that he's enjoying what he's doing. Don't make it boring. And the best way to do so is like through games. Work on games, like as we said, teach them vocabulary through puzzles, through dominoes, through categories. uh, Start this way. And for those who don't master the English language, start by from the base. Work on short words that have only one vowels. Make them master the sounds of the vowels. Yani try to teach them phonics and phonemic awareness. Teach them phonemes and phonics at first. For those who don't have or don't know the English language, once they are mastering the vowels, once they master the vowels and they master the sounds of the vowels and their different pronunciations and usages, you can move on to the next step.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Our next question is from Jordan Joy. Good day, ma'am. What is the most important comprehension strategy?
As my based on my experience personally from teaching, I don't think that there is one which is the most important strategy. I think that all the strategies we talked about are way too important, because we said that if one strategy is not properly taught and one skill is not mastered, students will not be able to understand comprehension or understand the text they are reading. So, all comprehension strategies are important. All of them should be given attention. And for a successful teacher is the one who varies the strategies, because like we have students who have different abilities. Maybe some can better understand if I use visual strategies or visual techniques. Some may understand if I use something that meets their auditory skills. So it depends on the student's style, their needs, their interests, and that's why all of them are way too important. And teachers should vary. In every period, you should mention or use all, not to be monotonous, not to be routine, not to be boring.
Thank you, ma'am, for your answer. Our next question is, how to encourage elementary students to ask questions if they cannot understand the story?
Okay, first, if students don't understand the story, I can't expect them like from the first time to ask questions. But when I teach my students, or when I ask my students questions about the story they are reading, they will be better able to understand the story. For example, if they don't know how to ask questions, I can take their place by asking them, what is the title? Who is the main character? What did this character say? How does this character feel? So when I model more than once for my students how to ask comprehension questions, of course, they will be able to understand the story. So first, be a role model or a good model for students. Ask them questions every time. Once they listen these questions frequently in every reading period, they will be able to ask these questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, our next question is from John Elian. Are these reading strategy also applicable to independent readers? I mean, these reading strategies are usually used to struggling readers, right? What about if we are handling advanced students?
Of course, the reading strategies are important to all students, not only to those who have problems. Despite the fact that in this webinar we spoke about those who have problems with reading, but the teaching reading strategies are strategies for all types of readers, whether they are good or they are fair or they are masters of reading. And of course, these strategies are way too important to be taught to all students. But the main difference is that if I'm dealing with a weak student, maybe I will work on a low level. I will lower the level. If I'm working with students who master their language, I can use the same strategies, but I can use higher level tasks, higher level activities, and higher level questions. But of course, the strategies are all important for different types of learners.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, our next question is from Mendoza. Aside from reading, how can a student develop their fluency, especially when they have disabilities?
Okay, I think that practice makes perfect. The best way to help students develop any skill is through practice. Of course, at the beginning, as we said, students will start with having some problems. But once they are asked for repetition, once they are asked to imitate, they will be better. So, of course, practice makes perfect. Once I ask students to repeat, when I ask them, when I guide them, when I give them guidelines on how to work, they are going to master their fluency. So teach them to repeat. Be a role model and ask them to repeat. Practice makes perfect.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, our next question is, which is more effective, top-down or bottom-up reading?
Both are equivalently important. It depends on the purpose of the teacher. It depends on what I want my students to know. And of course, here we talk about the different abilities. Maybe if I'm working with the students who are starting the language, maybe the bottom up reading is more effective. I start with words, ending up with sentences. But if I'm teaching students who master the language, top down could be better. It depends on the purpose. It depends who are the learners, the types of the learners, their abilities, their interests, the purpose of the task. So all these matter.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, our next question is from Bian. Good day, ma'am. Manal Alaskar. Is it more strategic if we could involve the parents in improving the reading comprehension, especially to make enhancement activities?
Of course, parents play a great role in the education of their kids. And of course, if parents are involved and are kept up to date with everything going in class, at school, of course, this will be a good guide and will help. If teachers and parents cooperate, of course, we expect better results. So parents, show them or make sure that the activities they are doing meet the level of their kids, their abilities, their interests, and so on. But of course, it's good.
Thank you, ma'am, for your answer. Ma'am, our next question is from Janine Beth. How can I apply the characteristics of a good reader for my kindergarten learners?
Of course, we said that there are different characteristics for a good reader. For example, one of them is reading silently. Teach them to read silently. Teach them not to read aloud, for example. Teach them to read for a purpose, to know what they are reading for. Teach them to read with concentration, not to read while being distracted or playing with their pencils, pens, and so on. So you need to teach them these characteristics. You need to watch out that the characteristics of a good reader are met while they are reading. That's a good way. And of course, there are students who need extra help in this field. Also, you should give them more attention.
Thank you, ma'am, for your answer. Ma'am, our next question is from Evelyn. Good afternoon, ma'am. What comes first, phonemic awareness or phonics? Thank you.
Okay, previously in the webinar, I stated that phonemic awareness and phonics are interrelated. It means that they are related to each other, and teaching phonemic awareness depends on teaching phonics and vice versa. So there is nothing that comes first. Both are equivalently important. When I'm teaching any sound, I should make sure that the student knows that the student knows how to read, how to pronounce, and how to write this certain letter. So both are equivalently important and they are interrelated.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, our next question is, can you give up tips how to engage a student to read in pleasure rather than compulsory?
Okay, of course, teachers first should be a role model. For example, how can I encourage my students to read if I as a teacher, always tell them that I don't read? Of course, this is nonsense. So I should model, my students should always see me holding a book, reading, and I should speak about my experiences, tell them about stories I read, how I felt the pleasure, how I felt happy, how I was excited. And of course, motivation plays a great role. I should always motivate my students to read. I can tell them, like, if you read this part tomorrow, you will have no assignment. If you read, for example, and get for me five vocabulary words, I'll give you +1 on your writing, and so on. So work also on motivation. Be a role model for your students and also work on motivation.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, our next question is from Julia. How can we improve the level of the students' reading comprehension?
Okay, as from my own experience, to improve the level of the students' reading comprehension, start from the basic level. So first, make sure that you work on Bloom's taxonomy. Make sure that you work first on their knowledge, and then you go up level by level in order that they understand. Enrich your reading comprehension period with lots of activities that meet your students' demands, their interests, their age, and so on. So, and keep on practicing with your students. This is the most important.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, our next question is, in making infantils in the pre-reading stage, do we need to check it and clarify in the post-reading stage?
Making inferences doesn't come in the pre-reading stage. In fact, it comes in the post-reading stage. Making inferences, students cannot make inferences before they start reading, because usually making inferences is dependent on what they read. So it comes in the post-reading stage and not in the pre-reading stage.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next question is from Santiago. Blessed great day to all, madam. Speaker, I wish to ask, based on your experience and studies, what is the systematic way to effective way on how we can develop the lab or for comprehension that will also develop critical thinking or metacognitive skills of students?
Okay, of course, in order to make it effective and systematic, when we want to teach comprehension, it's so important, as we said before, to focus on the communicative approach, to tell our students that we are not just reading because we have to read. We are reading to learn expressions that help us communicate in our real life, to enrich our vocabulary, to be critical thinkers, to be able to use our conceptive skills in life, conceptual. So all these help us as teachers to foster the idea. Make it clear for your students that they are not reading just to take a mark. No, They are reading to gain more knowledge, to learn more vocabulary, to be able to write in a more attractive way, to be able to comprehend any passage, to, for example, let them know, like, by reading, you're not only reading for here. Like, if you go to the supermarket, you can read a certain ad, a certain, about a certain type of food. You can know what are the ingredients and so on. Make it clear for them that you are teaching them reading so that they can use it in their real life situations.
Thank you, ma'am, for your answer. Ma'am, our next question is from Naira. How can we teach reading to students with dyslexia?
Of course, students who have dyslexia would take more time to be able to read appropriately than the normal students, okay, or the regular students. But we should work in cooperation with their doctor, with the cooperation of the parents. We should work on letters. We should let them try to distinguish letters, مثلا B and D, for example, and P and the Q. And of course, as teachers, we will face some problems at the beginning, and maybe some students won't be able to master reading despite the many trials we give, despite the lot of attention we give. But we can teach them by helping them differentiate letters. And maybe the best way is to simplify the passage for them using graphic organizers.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, our next question is from Irichia Ruri. Good day, ma'am. Manalaska, what is the base method of teaching reading comprehension if the student have reading difficulties? Thank you.
As we said before, that for students who have difficulties, first I need to know what kind of difficulty is it. Is it ADD? Is it dyslexia? Is it improper tracking? Is it the poor vision? So according to the type of reading difficulty, I know as a teacher how to manage. Should I ask or seek the parents' help? Should, for example, I enrich the students' skills by designing more activities for this student? So it depends on the case.
Thank you, ma'am, for your answer. Ma'am, our next question is from Christian. How can we develop improved reading comprehension?
As we said, in order to develop or improve reading comprehension, you should work on the reading blocks that we mentioned before: phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and finally comprehension. All these blocks are important, and you should master or make sure that your students master the reading comprehension skills and enrich their daily classroom with activities like skimming, scanning, and so on.
Thank you, ma'am, for your answer. Ma'am, our next question is from Rebellion. Good day, ma'am. If the teacher is the heart of learning, what is the heart of reading comprehension?
If the teacher is the heart of learning, for me, the heart of reading comprehension is the reading block, or are the reading blocks that we spoke about, because they are the way that help us master or understand a reading passage.
Thank you, ma'am, for your answer. Ma'am, our next question is from Janelian. What are the materials to use in effective reading, especially to those peoples who cannot even read?
Of course, you can design certain reading activities for them, or materials like cards, for example, on which you use certain letters, or you can segment phonemes, use posters, use pictures, use visuals, use auditory materials. It depends on the student himself or herself and the problem he or she has.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, our next question is from Junalian. Are this reading strategy also applicable to independent readers? I mean, ma'am, already we answered this question. We are moving to our next question. Uh, Jenia, hi ma'am. What remedy can we can give to those students who happen to have hearing problem as phonic? It's important to their reading efficiency. Thanks, ma'am.
Of course, students have reading, hearing. It's not an issue, of course, if they are able to be supported with visual hearing aids. Because I have like some students who have hearing problems, but they are perfect. I have one student who's perfect at comprehension, at writing. He's one who has hearing problems. So hearing or deficiency in hearing won't affect their reading efficiency. If we can find a certain doctor and his parents are also like cooperative in this field, it won't be an issue for him.
Thanks, ma'am. Ma'am, our next question is from Mendoza. Aside from reading, how can a student develop their fluency, especially when they have a disability?
we, we answered also this question before.
Okay, ma'am.
We
I'm
said
sorry
like,
that I can repeat. Ma'am, our next question is from Dalal. How can I solve the problem of big individual difference when teaching reading?
here you need to organize your work. You need to use different materials, as we said, that meet the different learning styles, visual materials, auditory, kind of for those who are kinesthetic, and you can divide students according to groups, according to such individual differences.
Once again, thank you so much, Honorable Ma'am, for your time in IGP. We have learned a lot from you with new topics. It will add some value to our day-to-day activities along with our academic and professional growth. Honorable Ma'am, hope to see you again with a new topic and a new day. Thank you, ma'am. Take care.
Thank you. On my behalf, also, I would like to thank IGP for giving me the opportunity to present my fourth webinar. And of course, wait for me in coming webinars in February, March, and April. Thank you for all the international guests. Thanks a lot. IGP efforts are highly appreciated. Thank you once again.
Welcome, ma'am. Honorable ma'am, before we move to the next webinar certification process, if you want to leave this studio, ma'am, you can. IGP Knowledge Seeker, it's time for the webinar certification process, the most attractive and powerful part of our regular webinar. After a short video, we will start our webinar certification. After webinar certification, we have an online quiz competition and quiz certification. IGP Knowledge Seeker is time to the webinar certification process, the most attractive and powerful part of our regular webinar. After a short video, we will start our webinar certification. After webinar certification, we have an online quiz competition and quiz certification. Dear participant, today our webinar topic is Teaching Reading Comprehension and the code is IGP 1175. Today our topic is Teaching Reading Comprehension and the code is IGP 1175. Without code, no one is eligible for certificate. With code, you can claim your certificates anytime. Without code, no one is eligible for certificate. With code, you can claim your certificate anytime. Dear IGP Knowledge Seeker, it's time for the most engaging part of this webinar, which is an online quiz competition, which is our regular webinar activity. Now, time for the quiz online quiz competition. To join the online quiz competition properly, please follow my instruction carefully. First, you have to go www.slido.com and the code is IGP2 and the code is IGP2. First, go to www.slido.com and today's quiz or scan this QR code for direct joining and the code is IGP2. After a short video, we will start our quiz competition. So please mention your friend to join our quiz competition. Please join in Slido with the code and the code is IGP2 and the code is IGP2. Please join in Slido with code and the code is IGP2. Please join in Slido with the code and the code is IGP2. We will start our quiz competition after 2 minutes. So mention your friend to join our quiz competition. To join our quiz competition, you have to go www.slido.com and the code is IGP2 and the code is IGP2. We will pick your name from Slido, so join with your full name, which will directly print out certificates. Top 10 will be awarded with quiz completion certificate. Already 73 people joined with us, so please mention your friends so they can join our quiz competition. Please join in Slido with the code and the code is IGP2. The code is IGP2. We will start our quiz competition after 1 minute. Already 74 people joined with us. Dear participant, let's start our quiz competition with 84 people. Our first question of this quiz: what two elements are essential for reading comprehension? Option 1, oral language and phonics. Option 2, decoding skills and language comprehension. Option 1, oral language and phonics. Option 2, decoding skills and language comprehension. Option 2, decoding skills and language comprehension is the right answer, and 70% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Kidua is holding the first position. Our second question is graphic organizers is in comprehension strategies are essential in techniques part. Option 1, how to plan. Option 2, story elements. Option 1, how to plan. Option 2, story elements. Option 2, story elements is the right answer, and 73% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Kidwana is holding the first position. In our third question is teaching speaking requires. Option 1, careful planning beforehand. Option 2, just a general topic and the student will take over the conversation. Option 1, careful planning beforehand is the right answer, and 83% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Julius is holding the first position after completing our third question. Our fourth question is teaching vocabulary helps develop both. Option 1, phonological awareness and reading comprehension. Option 2, social awareness and oral comprehension. Option 1, phonological awareness and reading comprehension. Option 2, social awareness and oral comprehension. Option 1, phonological awareness and reading comprehension is the right answer, and 88% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Michelle is holding the first position after completing our fourth question. Our fifth question is which of the following are important components of reading workshops? Option 1, mini lessons. Option 2, worksheets. Option 1, mini lessons. Option 2, worksheets. Option 1, mini lessons, right answer, and 42% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Macoloni is holding the first position after completing our fifth question. Our sixth question is what is the ultimate goal for reading? Option 1, the ability to gain meaning from text through comprehension. Option 2, the ability to understand words. Option 1, the ability to gain meaning from text through comprehension. Option 2, the ability to understand words. Option 1, the ability to gain meaning from text through comprehension is the right answer, and 92% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Nico Dan is holding the first position after completing our sixth question. Our seventh question is I am responsible for teaching decoding skills with struggling leaders. Option 1, reading teacher. Option 2, English teacher. Option 1, reading teacher. Option 2, English teacher. Option 1, reading teacher is the right answer, and 81% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Nicoden is holding the first position after completing our seventh question. Our eighth question is science of reading is only Good for a student with dyslexia. Option 1 true, option 2 false. Option 1 true, option 2 false. Option 2 false, the right answer, and 90% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Nicodan is holding the first position after completing our 8th question. Our ninth question is reading fluency is an important predictor of reading comprehension. Option 1 true, option 2 false. Reading fluency is an important predictor of reading comprehension. Option 1 true, option 2 false. Option 1 true is the right answer, and 85% people are right here. In the leaderboard, Nicoden is holding the first position after completing our ninth question. Our last and final question is TF reading fluently equals reading comprehension. Option 1 true, option 2 false. T oblique F reading fluently equals reading comprehension. Option 1 true, option 2 false. Option 1 true is the right answer, and 70% people are right here. Congratulations to our webinar online quiz certification winner top 10. Congratulations again. Slido will take a few time for finalizing the result, and after that we will issue our online quiz competition certificate on our official Facebook page and group, Institute of Global Professional. Congratulations to our webinar online quiz competition winner, top 10. Congratulations again. Slido will take a few minutes for finalizing the result, and after that, we will issue our online quiz competition certificates on our official Facebook page and group, Institute of Global Professional. Congratulations to our webinar online quiz competition winner top 10. Congratulations again. Slido will take a few minutes for finalizing the result. After that, we will issue our online quiz competition certificates on our official Facebook page and group. At the end moment of our session, we can say properly feed your skills, never stop learning cause life never stop teaching us. Be happy and stay safe. See you again and again. We want to participation in every program. If you want to live a happy life, tie it to a goal, not to people or things. Albert Enthis. Before I say or hit the live end button, again, wants to thanks to all IGP knowledge seeker for your active participation. As always, see you again in the next session. Thank you.